let's get to our big three questions here. You're from New York. You went to school in Brockport, took a gig in Geneva, but then you were talking about wanting to stay here and why this is a good opportunity. What makes Rochester such a special place for media, broadcasting to live a life? Any chance you have to throw superlatives at Rochester, now is your chance.
What I usually say is, I'm glad I grew up in New York City. I'm glad I don't live there. I've stayed look, the fact that I've stayed here is testament to the city, the surrounding areas, the people, the sports teams. It's everything. It's all a big, the parts, the sum is, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. There are so many parts that make Rochester, in my opinion, a great place to live. And here I am, and I plan on staying. This is my entire adult life has been spent in Rochester. 2/3 of my life has been spent at WCMF. So I got no compelling reason to go anywhere.
Awesome. Next one, you're moving on from full-time radio, but if there was sort of one thing you could look back on and sort of say, this was it, this was the big achievement, this is something that I'm really going to remember and hang my hat on, what would that one thing be?
40 years, easy. 40 years because of the rarity of it and how easy it seemed to get to, just not effortlessly, but yeah, it was just a great ride with, rarely any bumps. And, 40 years was just a huge milestone. And that's what I wanted to get to. As I mentioned, once I got to that, I said, all bets are off after that. I put in my time.
Last one, if anyone, really has a passion for radio and they know that's something that they want to do or they're thinking about getting into it, what would your advice for them be?
I hate to say this, but don't. It's a field that is so incredibly hard to get into. And there are hardly any live, although at the local level in smaller markets, there may still be radio stations. So I shouldn't say don't. If that's what your passion is, by all means, pursue it. But I want people to know that it's incredibly tough to break into. It is not financially rewarding at the entry level. And the radio business itself is changing. They'd be more, I would recommend more, by all means doing communications, but starting to look into podcasting and online streaming, anything that has to do with digital, because terrestrial radio is probably going to go at some point the way of the dial telephone. People will be able to have their music wherever they are, whenever they want, on any device they have. So as dire and as, down as that sounds, the radio is completely different than it was when I broke in. It's not live all the time, and there's rarely any entry-level positions.